Hello there, everybody. My name is RJ, and this is another Sweet Escapes session, but slightly different this time because this is a sprinkle session. If you are familiar with Draft House D&D, this is analogous to an FPS. If you're not and you're new here, this is kind of like a smaller game, typically between two or three people, to kind of just do a little bit of roleplay on the side. So joining me for this particular session is the very wonderful.
What's up? It's me. It's your DM, your world builder, your bitch. Hi, it's Gail. Hi, I'm back.
Hell yeah. So this will have spoilers for the latest episode of Sweet Escapes D&D. So if you haven't seen that, it's not gonna make a whole lot of sense to you. But um at the end of it, we got a new party member, didn't we?
You
Uh
did.
and SG and this person have a lot to talk about. So I think we pick up probably uh um I think we pick up probably a little bit after the end of the last episode. Um at wherever they're camping that night.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else is either asleep or off doing something else. But the point is, SG and Coco are the ones at the campfire at the moment. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Coco, do you want to roll a quick perception for me?
Of course. What is your perception, you old bastard?
First roll. Let's fucking go.
That's a +9.
Sick.
God. I'm not used to playing high-level characters that don't have ridiculous fucking rules. That's still an
That's
unnatural
still
20 on
an
an 11,
unnatural
though.
20. So, I'll roll stealth. We'll see what happens. Oh, that's a 21. That's a 30 21. So you look over. You don't catch them in the act necessarily, but you can feel the glances that Z's shooting your way. Every time you look up, Z's got their head kind of buried in the notebook in their lap, but you can tell that like you're just barely missing catching them. Um,
Aww. It's fucking precious. I hold this cookie so soft. Can I roll insight for him to try and figure out
sure,
what their
yeah,
deal
go for
is?
it, go for it.
This one is one where I do have a ridiculous roll.
26! I don't think I can beat that even on a natural 20. No, I'd match it on a natural 20. Oh my god. That's close though. That's close though. It's 25. It's hard to read. And that might be lack of practice. That might just be, it could be lack of practice, but you're looking at this cookie and like there's as you're looking, there is an attempt, a very good attempt, because it takes you a second to cotton on, at casualness. But now that you've cottoned onto it, you can look past it, and you can see they shift position slightly, and for a moment you can see the page. And it's a list of questions, most of which have been scratched out, and there's evidence of like he's written something, and then immediately scrubbed it out, and then rewritten it beneath, and then immediately crossed that out as well. It's like frustration. And you get the feeling, given the glances you're just barely missing, that it has to do with you, or at the very least, you are the catalyst for it.
Fun. He's not going to push them on it immediately. He's going to, give them a couple minutes to, if they want to, if they decide that that is what they want to do, they are fully capable and welcome to approach him themselves. Um, the
Alrighty.
question is, do they do that?
There's there's do you like just keep watching them?
There would be a bit of a raised eyebrow and a smile before going back to poking at the fire with a stick and watching the smoke.
There's a quiet, oh, fuck it. Before SG kind of clears its throat and goes, uh King Coco? Bittersweet Coco? How should we what kind of
Just call,
uh,
just call me Coco.
right.
The kingdom I was, the kingdom I ruled over is long gone. We're all equals here.
Right, yeah. Uh I fucking I have I have a page here of trying to figure out how to word things, and it's just uh, scrubs a hand down its face and goes, I feel I should apologize.
For what?
I found these, and it will go into its bag and pull out the journals. His journals, your journals. Um, Kind of put them to one side so that you can reach over and grab them if you want.
He'll
Um,
go and pick up one.
I I have read them in before you ask. Um, I if I'd known you were live, I never would have. Hells, I shouldn't have done it anyway. But and
You are
these
looking
these
for
are
information. The journals of a dead man are free property for anyone to read. If I didn't want anyone reading them, I wouldn't have written it down. You don't need to apologize.
oh, you can see that comment has just taken the wind completely out of their sails. Uh, they kind of semi awkwardly pause. Clear its throat a bit. Um,
He's just got this, like, slight amused smile on his face. He doesn't have, let me put it this way, he doesn't have the greatest range of expression. He's not a very emotive cookie, but there is just that little tug of a smile at the corner of his lips. Just, oh goodness.
I I guess follow up question. Do you want another notebook to keep journaling, or? 'Cause I've got a couple. I can give you one easily.
If it's of no inconvenience to you, I do find the task helpful.
Sure. Yeah. No. Yeah. Sure. Reaches into its bag, pulls out another notebook, and a little portable quill and inkwell. Slides them over.
He will accept those with a quiet thank you. He doesn't exactly immediately start writing, but he does, like, very carefully look through the journal and set it aside and be very careful with the ink because if that spills anywhere, it's a nightmare to clean up.
Yeah. Um. Follow up question. Uh. Pulls out one of the knives. These were yours. Are yours. Right?
Once upon a time, yes.
Do you want them back?
Hmm. He will hold out a hand for one of them.
They will hand one over.
And as Sugar Glass watches, He turns this blade over and over in his hands. He carefully holds it up so that the light of the fire catches the blade, and it does something strange, something you haven't seen it do before. The metal of the blade shimmers and shifts in colors, going between their natural silver color to a more deep, dusky purple, and then it's a lighter, softer blue, it's a coppery gold, it's all these different colors dancing together with each other. And he carefully brings it back down, runs a finger over the stars engraved into the blade, and then shakes his head and hands it back.
They take it, look down at it, like, whoa. Look back up, like, how did you. What was that?
How much do you know about the weapons you carry?
Um. Uh. Well, they. They seem to be sharper than any other blade that I've seen. There's something about them, some kind of magic.
Go,
Roll insight.
I'm really good at that. But that's a nat 1!
Roll again. Roll again. I want to say this, goddammit. I'm not accepting a nat 1. There we go.
That's a
28.
28.
Okay. There is a look on your face.
Mm-hmm.
And you can recognize it as it's a mix of guilt and frustration and a little hint of despair.
Mm.
And it goes, there's some kind of magic in the blades that I I can feel it there. I've meditated with them before. I I don't know if it's just because I'm not good enough, or if the the blades don't like me, or if it's just because I've not had them very long, but I can't use it. Can't even draw it out.
And there's a moment there when Z says, I don't know if it's because I'm not good enough or because they don't like me, where his expression just softens a bit, and he shakes his head and says, nothing of the sort. You hold in your hand are the dreaming blades of the Cacao Kingdom. Once, long ago, they were a massive sword wielded by the kings of old. He kind of laughs and says, when I was younger, albeit not quite so young as yourself, I was given this sword to have to wield, and found myself lacking. And he kind of snorts and said, honestly, I don't know what anyone expected. I I was much better back then at maneuvering than I was at charging headfirst into any danger I should face. So I don't know what they were expecting, handing me a sword twice my height and expecting me to fight with it. It was a bit ridiculous, if we're being perfectly honest. But
There was a small chuckle.
and he smiles at that because, hey, he made the kid laugh. Good, he hasn't quite lost his touch. But I did have to learn to fight with it, and eventually there came a point where, in a battle, I swung the sword and it shattered. And he points at the sword in your hand. It shattered as I dealt the final blow to a dragon that had beset our kingdom. And it took me years to find all the pieces among the blood and ashes. The pieces I found were a metal unlike anything I had ever seen. What had once been a great sword had become something far, far superior. A metal that will never dull, never break, and can be thrown with utmost precision. But it was also a metal that carried a spirit of its own. That magic you feel is the spirit of the blades themselves, shared alike between each individual blade, and yet perfectly capable of its own thoughts and feelings. You are right to think that it can and cannot like people. He kind of smiles and says, I assure you, you are definitely a soul it has grown fond of.
It with its free hand, it just reaches up and covers the yellow eye.
Hmm. He's not going to comment on that. There's thoughts there, but he's not going to comment on them.
That's that is relieving. Um I the others can wield magic so easily. I the only thing that I can do is shapeshift. And not even very well.
I'm sure you'll get better with practice. Give yourself time. You are. Goodness. He laughs and says, were the kingdoms of old still standing, you would not yet have been permitted to even leave your house. You would still be under the care of your parents for several years.
Unfortunately, I'm the closest thing that the others have to a parent. I've got to
Mm.
I've got to protect them. I've got to be faster, got to be quicker.
And who protects you?
If I'm doing my job right, they don't need to.
Sugar Glass Cookie. You came out at the exact same time that the rest of these cookies did. Yes, you may have taken the role of the responsible or the elder. Yes, you may have led them out of the ovens and off of the sacred island yourself. You are still a child. You should not have that kind of responsibility on your shoulders.
The fact remains that I do.
Roll insight.
Alright. Your insight would have changed this level. Oh, that's very good though. 23.
Oh boy, how do I put this? There is a look in his eyes when you say that. It is something that might be called understanding. It is something that might be called regret. It is something that might be called apology. It is something that might be called grief. He hears you say these things and he is remembering back to a time that he hasn't written about, that you wouldn't know of, that nobody would know of. And he's remembering back to a promise that he made himself that day and cursing himself for having broken that promise. No one else would have to fight for that survival the way he did. It was the entire reason he brought his kingdom back from ruins. Yet here it is in ruins again, and here is someone who he has failed. Because here is someone who has had to take on the responsibility of looking after their entire batch in a world that is mistrustful and dangerous and unknown, and possibly, if certain things that you guys have explained to him are to be believed, possibly on the brink of yet another destruction. And he is looking at you, Sugar Glass Cookie, and it is the look of somebody who, despite being tired, despite being too experienced with the world to, you know, logically be wanting any kind of responsibility, it's someone who wants to take that burden off your shoulders and help you, but doesn't want to say it because they understand taking on that burden and how difficult it can be to put down. Jazz hands.
Yeah. Z sees all that, and Z looks back into the fire and goes, I've read your journals. I know how hard you try to protect your people. You did the best that you could with what you were given, and it is not your fault that the world is like this now.
No, it's not. I made a promise many, many hundred years ago. No one would ever have to fight to survive and to protect what they love before they were ready. It used to be tradition in the Cocoa Kingdom. Children to be trained as soon as they were baked, to be taken out into the woods and taught to survive, and I saw how badly that hurt the people of our kingdom. I promised that no one would ever have to go through that again, that we would not be like starving wolves forced to look out for ourselves and our own with viciousness and blood, and with fear of the next sunrise, of whether or not we'd see the next sunrise. And yet, I have failed you. Sorry.
I say this as kindly as I can, but that was foolish of you. There's no way you could protect everyone else in the future. You are one cookie. You haven't failed me. I wasn't even around when you fell. You've not
Mm.
had a chance to fail me.
And he chuckles and says, perhaps. I only wish that the kingdoms of old had survived to this day. Maybe then. And he looks around at the others who are likely sleeping nearby, and he says, well, maybe things would have been better. Still, I have to commend you. I do not think you should have been saddled with such responsibility as you have, but you handled it very well. It's clear you all care about each other, and seems like everyone is in one piece. That is more than some people could say.
Yeah. I love them. They're my siblings.
And that's why it kills you to see them hurt.
He doesn't respond to that. Um, just kind of the dagger's still in hand, um, tilting it this way and that, catching the gem in the hilt in the firelight. Um, you've you've got a lot of experience with memories and dreams and whatnot.
Too much.
Sorry. Um,
No, don't apologize. That was an attempt to be funny. I am so good at humor.
oh, believe you me, I think we've got the same kind. Um, but you have you ever had dreams that aren't your own? I apologize, it probably doesn't make
Mm,
much sense, but
might make a bit more than you think. Do you mind describing what you mean to me?
um, sometimes sometimes when I dream, it's either nightmares of things that I've seen, but sometimes it's memories from someone else. Either memories that feel more current or memories that feel distant, old. I when hmm, maybe we're before we came into your mindscape, something happened. There was a wave of grief that washed over me. It took me to my knees, but it wasn't mine. And then when we were in the mindscape, I could communicate to someone. My eye wasn't always yellow.
Hmm. What do I roll for this? What do I roll for this? Let's go deception.
Contesting insight.
That's an 11.
Eeg. I mean, I didn't roll much better. 12.
Oh boy, these two are. It is emotional conversation
They
hours.
keep beating each other by 1 point.
Listen, I there's a fucking reason we parallel Sugar Glass with the Cocoa
Yeah.
Kingdom. There's a reason they are tangled up in each other's shit. Yeah, okay. God. With that 11 in deception. So he has been pointedly not thinking about certain clues. He's been pointedly not thinking about certain things that add up a little too well. And now he does actually look you in the eye that was not always yellow. And there is a look on his face that is concerned and it is thoughtful, and it's very much a, you know, that look you get on your face where it's like, oh, I seriously doubt that I am right, but if I am, oh shit.
Yeah.
It's that. Not quite a please for the love of God, don't let me be right, but more of a no, no, there's no way. There's no way. And eventually he kind of takes a breath and says, I might actually have an idea of uh, that might, what that might be. You mind if I try something?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Do you need me to do anything or...
And goodness gracious, what is the spell I want to use? Because technically this is me bullshitting this spell, but also shush. Ah, there it is. So he's going to reach into the pockets of his robes, um, which he did, switch into before leaving the castle with y'all. And, he grabbed some of his own stuff. And he's going to pull out a small pouch and take out something that looks like some kind of fur, maybe? You haven't seen anything that has fur like that, but you figure maybe it's a Cocoa Kingdom thing? And he carefully tosses it into the fire and says a prayer to the Star Maker and the Memory Keeper.
Mm-hmm.
There's a moment of quiet, and then SG, it is the weirdest fucking feeling as your chest lights up. Because the spell he has cast is called Locate Creature. Locate Creature is fun. Um, and like I said, this is me bullshitting this spell, because this is technically a version of this spell that I bullshitted up called Locate Soul.
Interesting.
Which does kind of the same thing as Locate Creature, except instead of looking for a specific, person or animal, it is looking for a specific soul. You have to know the soul you're looking for. And this is a soul that he is very familiar with. And
Mm-hmm.
SG, it is the weirdest feeling because it's like there is a warmth in your chest, like someone has just lit a candle inside, where your rib cage would be if you were a creature with bones.
Uh-huh.
Um and you look down and there are 2 points of light on your chest rather than what one would expect from, a person who is one person, in that you would only have one soul, right? Wrong in this case.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's more like you have one and a half. Because in the center of your chest, there is a glowing cyan blue heart that feels very much like your own magic and like yourself, you know, and whatnot and what have you. On the other side, on sort of to the left of that, is half of a golden heart that feels a lot more like whatever it was you were communicating with in the mindscape.
So the whole heart is their own, yeah? That matches their soul
Mm-hmm.
gem color. I guess that one would be purple because that's the color of their soul gem.
Oh,
Um,
then it is purple.
one purple, one gold.
Mm-hmm.
They look up with a look of visible confusion.
And dark cocoa is going, or bittersweet cocoa is going to give a big sigh and say, "This is why we should have been more careful to not let the kingdoms fall. Now we have children meddling with soul magic."
What? What? Huh? What do you mean soul magic? What?
I mean that currently you are not fully the only soul in your body. You have essentially established a link with someone else, someone whose soul was broken, and I assume you came into contact with it, and he, like, carefully gestures and says, "It, a piece of them took up residence within you because it needed someplace safe to stay."
Uh, wait, is this what Starmaker? Is this what Mary Keeper meant?
And he raises an eyebrow at that because he wasn't there for that conversation.
Um, um, so the oh goodness. So uh, the reason why Memory Keeper sent us into your mind to come free you, is because she said that I threw the timeline out of loop or something, and then tapped under my eye. And my eye went this, and they tap under the yellow eye when I picked up a blue rock shortly after getting onto the mainland.
Oh boy. He is going to take a breath and said, "Yeah, yeah, that would do it. Um, not, you know, uh, this isn't a don't touch blue rocks in the future, but more of a, I'm guessing that this rock that you encountered was glowy in a specific way."
Yes.
Right. Don't, don't pick up glowy things without, getting someone else's, not permission, what's the word? Uh, Second opinion?
Well, we know that now. In the meantime, in my defense, we were like 1 day old at the time.
I am aware, and you are not in trouble. It is just, oh goodness. It is a miracle you survived. Let's put it that way.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wait, but that means that there's someone wandering around with half a soul.
This is also true.
I, that's. What would that do to them? Would there be permanent effects from that? Oh no.
Oh goodness. Okay, SG. He is going to stand up and cross around the fire to stand in front of you. And he has this big fluffy necked cape that he wears, and he's going to take that off and drape it around your shoulders because you look like you're starting to freak out.
It is. That's a good move.
Sugar glass, look at me.
They look.
Take a deep breath.
They do.
Right. Whatever has happened to the person with whom you are currently sharing a soul, it is not your fault. If anything, you are probably the reason they are able to be alive right now.
What do you mean?
Soul can only persist for so long outside of the body. Cookie souls, especially, are notoriously fragile. Our soul jams, if they are not of the purest and strongest ingredients possible, tend to disintegrate after 2 or 3 hours. Some have persisted far longer, some can persist for years, even centuries, but that is usually only with the help of a great deal of magic. Whatever soul you found was likely on its way out, otherwise it would not have bonded with you so immediately. The fact that the other half was then freed to go find the body to which it belongs means that that person is alive because they had your help. What you did was very dangerous. It was not a cruel or unjust or unkind thing to do.
Z is clearly taking a moment to process that.
Question is, how are you handling the effects it's having on you? You already
I'm.
said that you have nightmares, but having someone else's feelings in your head can't be easy.
It's fine. I'm fine. That was a 9 deception check.
Ah,
We
goodness.
didn't even need to
Um,
roll. They
yeah,
are
I'm going to
lying.
beat that. And he's just going to, like, he is kind of crouched down in front of them with his back to the fire, and he's got his, like, hands on their knees, trying to, give them something to focus on so that they don't go off into spiral mode. Um, and they lie, and he just looks at them, and it's very much the tired dad look, and he just says, all right, and the truth now?
They tuck their head. Like it's the fucking oh shit, I'm being parental shamed is very clear, along with a side of confusion over what is this? How is he doing this to me?
It is the dad vibes.
The emotional bleed over isn't great. It's only been bad like once. Um, normally it's minimal at best. I only feel it in my dreams.
And these dreams, do they stop you from resting properly?
I mean, sometimes it can be a little unsettling, but I've never, like, I'm tired, but that's not why. I'm just tired all the time. I
That is getting you a very concerned expression, and we are going to roll medicine.
Go ahead and roll. 11.
Fuck.
Roll
Can I
again.
argue?
Yeah,
Can I argue
you can
advantage?
have advantage. You can have advantage. Because
This is
considering,
something this man has studied.
yeah, A, consider you studied this, and B, roll again. That's ridiculous. Mildly better. Yeah. Now that you're this close, now that you're like, actually looking at them and shit, um, their dough, like, you've got a hand on them. Their dough is fragile. It feels almost like if you push too hard, it will crumble. Um, uh, with your locate soul spell, you can tell as well. Their soul. How do I put this? Their soul has the power to persist, but it's, for lack of a better word, it seems almost unstable.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like it's not quite centered in itself. Like who they are is malleable. And you get the suspicion
Hmm.
that's probably to do, or very much related to, or possibly the reason for their ability to shapeshift into other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. 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 That was a 9 on deception.
10 on that insight.
He is worried about you. Like, he is looking over you, now with the eyes of somebody who was a practiced field medic who has fought in, wars of old. Somebody who got their medical training on the battlefield and then furthered it with proper research. And you can't fully read because that's a 10 to a 9.
Mm-hmm.
Neither of those rolls are great.
Mm-hmm.
But running through his head is just, oh, good fucking lord, this kid should not be anywhere near a fight, much less near soul magic.
Hey, remember how despite making the save, you fucking one-shot them with that synaptic static?
Mm-hmm. He's remembering that and just in his head is going through just okay, so this batch was one with very uneven flour distribution, which is never good. The divines are kind and all knowing and whatnot and what have you, but good lord, sometimes they fuck up the recipe. Um, he is also aware that, okay, this cookie has a primary ingredient that is very dangerous to their health, both mental and physical. And listen, the best way I can describe his mental state right now is just, oh, good fucking lord, this is a child. This is a child with a serious medical condition dealing with shit they should be nowhere near touching at this age. Oh, good lord. It's basically the mental equivalent of, when the parent wants to look at their child and wrap them in wrap in blankets and never let them go anywhere dangerous. But he's restraining himself because also this is someone who has already been in several fights, has entered a mindscape, and has spoken with a god.
We've gone from, oh, this is a child to, oh, you're kind of fucked up, actually.
We've gone from oh, good Lord, these are children, to, oh, good Lord, these are children who are in a very unsafe situation, to, oh, good Lord, this child in particular should be in a fucking hospital. And just, I think it, like, takes him a minute because you can very clearly see that concern in his eyes. Because for as much as he doesn't really emote with his expression, his eyes do show a lot of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually he just says, you are so much stronger than I think you could possibly give yourself credit for.
I don't know what quite prompted that, but thank you.
And he is going to very carefully kind of sit back, still with his back to the fire, but not anywhere near close enough that he's gonna, like, set his hair on fire, because that would be awkward.
Yeah.
Because, having long hair does make that a hazard.
Yeah.
Um, and he looks at them very seriously and says, were we in the kingdoms of old, you would have been sent to the Pure Cream Kingdom as soon as possible to get proper medical treatment because your batch appears to have a serious case of uneven flour distribution, and you in particular also have a primary ingredient that would require proper flour distribution or even more flour than usual in your dough to properly allow for it to settle. This this combination of a lower constitution and a malleable soul jam means that poses a specific kind of threat to your physical and mental health. I am so sorry that you have had to go through so much so early and have had to deal with all of this on top of it. That should not be a position anyone is forced into.
What do you mean my ingredient poses a threat to my health?
Your ingredient is sugar glass, which is poured molten sugar. And from the looks of it, yours never quite fully freezes or hardens, which I believe would allow for your shape-shifting abilities that you mentioned. However, such an ability, such a primary ingredient, in combination with a lowered constitution due to a poor distribution of flour, would create and he kind of has to pause to think because it's been a while since he's had to think of this.
Mm-hmm.
He he used to be really good at medicine, and he was especially good at soul medicine because soul magic was his area. Of course, he didn't fucking start working with it until he was in his, late hundreds.
Yeah.
So he is very concerned for your well-being, given that even he would not try to do, a soul hosting because it would probably kill him. And he eventually settles on that kind of ingredient and that kind of power is very potent and very powerful, but it is also unstable. Not in a you are a danger to yourself way, but more in a And here he kind of focuses a bit and tries to think and says, more in a sense of it can disrupt your sense of self. It can make identity an issue of questionable questionable solvability, essentially, or questionable permanence. That's the word I was looking for, not solvability. I don't know what that was. Um, DM was screwing up, but and when combined with sharing a soul with someone else, it can seriously affect your mental health.
Blink, blink, blink.
He's just going to give them a minute to let that all process.
Yeah. They like reach up to fiddle with the ends of their hair, and it's like you can see it molds and melts like cooling but not
Golden sugar.
hardened candy. Yeah. As opposed to like moving like regular hair frosting hair would. Um
Mm-hmm.
well, I haven't noticed anything like that.
Is there anything you have noticed that worries you?
I mean, aside from the fact that my siblings keep giving me or attempting to give me white hair by jumping in feet first into every bout of danger they can find.
And that does actually get him to laugh because, oh god, he knows that feeling. And he does kind of smile at you and say, "No, that one's not a health thing. That's just what having a batch is like." I can't tell you the amount of times I would have to be barely holding back golden sugar by the back of her fucking collar, only for Wildberry to go charging in, practically screaming Leroy Jenkins at the top of her lungs.
That sounds like Geo and Barry.
He chuckles. It's maddening, but it's worth it.
Oh yeah. All those things that you mentioned, um, a an ingredient proving dangerous to its person. Is there a way to induce that in a cookie?
And he's actually going to furrow his eyebrows at that because, that's an odd question. Well, if someone has a stronger ingredient than their soul can handle, then that can happen. Um, you wondered if there were side effects to walking around with only half your soul. That is one of them. That oftentimes your power will become too much for you to handle. It can disrupt your it can disrupt your ability to heal properly or to ward off sickness. But as far as I know, other than that, there's no way to induce it without intentionally baking a cookie with an unstable recipe, which is illegal.
The the cookie that we were traveling with, red licorice, he had a crystal that he was given because he had been used and abused for his power to the point where it almost killed him. Which is why I was asking. I just wondered if there was anything we could do.
And his expression does soften at that, and he nods and says, there were cases like that. The kingdoms were not always the kindest places. When me and the other four, when we took over our respective kingdoms, we all tried to guide them in the right directions, and we made great strides. But before we came along, there were places where it was not safe for cookies to be. And there were groups that would use the power that we have for their own ends. These groups would force us to use our power until we had hardly any of it left, or until it was overtaxed to the point that how do I put it? Imagine for a moment you have a bottle full of water. And every time you try to take some water out, the bottle gets smaller. Eventually, you get to a point where even if you are pouring water out, the bottle is too small for it to make any difference, and it will remain full to the top.
Mm-hmm.
If you are then put in a position where you can only use your magic as you are told, then that magic will build up and begin to burn you from the inside. Or if you are put in a position where, for example, you're just constantly being told to pour water out of that bottle and never given any way to refill it, eventually you will be trying to pour from an empty vial, and it is the equivalent of magical starvation. Neither is pleasant. The only way to heal from it is to, in the case of the first, intentionally but carefully use your magic in a way that is more tailored to your needs. In the case of the second, it is to sit down for a good long period of time where you don't have to use magic and not use it, which can be very hard. And because I just noticed that SG did a thing, I'm going to say that Coco notices that SG just did a thing. And he's going to gently tap their knee and say, it's honorable to worry about your friends. You need to look after your own health.
I mean, I do. I can't help protect my siblings if I can't protect myself first.
He sighs because that is not the right way to approach that. That is not the only reason we look after ourselves, SG. That is not how self-care works. But he just kind of does the internal sigh and the, okay, we'll work on that one. And he's going to sit back a bit on his heels and say, I know that for a long time you have had to be the responsible one for your batch. You have had to look after everyone and make sure that everyone is okay and that no one is running into danger or getting themselves hurt or doing something that they shouldn't. And I'm not asking you to stop that. I'm not asking you to stop looking after your siblings. And I'm not asking you to stop worrying about them or protecting them. I am asking you to know that you are not alone and that I will be trying to help look after you and your siblings as much as I possibly can. Because we're all far too young to be dealing with any of this. And if the destinies will insist on this course for you, then somebody needs to look out for you all and make sure that you're okay.
You like think it over, and then nod.
Thank you.
There's a look on its face like it wants to say something but it can't find the right words to express itself. Um, aka I wanted to say something but I don't have the words.
What's the vibes of what you want to say? Maybe I can help.
it's it's like there's almost like this slow dawning realization that whenever Coco talks about its siblings being young, there's like vindication, hell yeah. Wait, he means me as well. Huh?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you mind if I don't roll insight on that
Yeah, no, that's fine. Like you
and just have him figure that out? Because
yeah. It's not trying to hide it necessarily. It's not even like fully conscious of this realization yet. But it looks like it almost wants to ask something, but it can't figure out the words yet.
he's not going to try and like guide them towards whatever question they have, but he is going to like look at them and there is an aura around Bittersweet Cocoa Cookie that felt strange when you first met him because it is it is an aura of hmm you know that feeling of being tucked under a blanket when outside there's a thunderstorm, but knowing that the walls of your house are enough to keep out the rain and that your blankets are enough to keep you warm and that, things might be dangerous, things might be looking to hurt you, but you have what you need to stay safe.
Mm-hmm.
there is a bit of an aura of that around him that, you know, comes with years of having been a ruler and a guide to other people and also, a religious leader, because that's a thing. Um, so it is up to you whether or not that puts you at ease, but he does say, you know, that thing you mentioned about them realizing, oh, when he says you all are children, he means me too. Yeah, he reiterates that. He says, you are all. And he does like gently tap their knee when he says you. You are all less than a year old. Most cookies aren't even considered no longer children until they're in their 50s. You are all so young, and you have already had to deal with so much. You, in particular, have had to shoulder a great burden because you decided, or were told, or just fell into the slot of being the responsible one, something that is never an easy task and never should be handled alone. You have had to handle it greatly without guidance because the world around you is not safe. The world around you is one that has fallen to ruin and is still trying to recover. The person who you found, who should have been a guide to you, is someone too frightened by a war long gone to properly act as a guide or a mentor or even a proper protective adult figure to anyone. You should not have to grow up so quickly, Sugarglass. You are a child. You deserve to experience what it is to be a child and to not have to hide the fact that you are behind responsibility for fear of the people you love getting hurt.
I think I'm starting to see that now.
And he does smile at them.
They like breathe in, sigh, scrub a hand across their face, kind of uh rub away the prickling that was starting to appear behind their eyes. It's nice to have someone acknowledge that.
I'm sorry no one has sooner.
With this quest that we're on, we can't really afford to. We'll figure out what happened. We'll put a stop to things if we have to. And we're gonna go home at the end of it. Help rebuild a new place to live. I. You'll help me make sure that they see it, yeah?
Of course. And I'll make sure you're there to see it with them.
They nod and like finally like take one last look at the knife that's still in their hand because they haven't put it away yet. And then put it away. And go, I'll try and I'll try and help you with that.
And he kind of smiles and says, you already have a few months of unlearning to do, but I'm sure you'll be all right. You're very strong, very kind, and very clever, Cookie. I have faith in you.
They smile at him. I think, unless you have anything else to add, that's a good place to leave off.
Yeah.
SG on God, we gonna get you a therapist when a therapist cookie finally shows up. Oh, God.
If I actually knew how to do therapy, dark or bittersweet cocoa would be the one I'd use to do it. But I don't know dick or nor shit about therapy. You're the one who actually studied psychology. I
Yeah.
just read a lot of hurt comfort fanfics.
Yeah. Yeah. Goodness. At least you're on the same page though, which is always good.
Yeah.
I can't wait for future revelations to break the both of them. That's gonna be so fun. Okay.
Yep.
I am gonna stop the recording here. Thank you everyone for
Yep.
listening.